Today we're taking a long overdue look at this, my Amiga 500. How can we make this look better and work better? So let's get on with it. I say a long overdue look because in Sweden, where I'm at, this computer is pretty much synonymous with retro computing and retro gaming. There really is a market for these systems, games and peripherals constantly being bought and sold. The Amiga 500 came out in 1987, and in Sweden Amiga fever had its peak in 1991. The processor used was the rather humble Motorola 6800 that we have seen in earlier compact Macs on this channel, such as the Macintosh Plus and the SE. But graphics and sound was really good, and so it became a really popular system for gaming.
I am the Commodore Amiga 500 home computer. Dazzling animation at your command. I am the Commodore Amiga 500, a multitasking home office in your hand. I am the Commodore Amiga 500, total home video you control, and arcade quality games in stereo. And now, you can be everything I am.
We never had an Amiga in my family, but I had a good friend who had one, and I remember spending long evenings at his place with two-player games. So there is definitely some nostalgia for me too. I particularly remember a game called Master Blaster that we had great fun with. So what have we got here? Well, this is the computer itself. I got this about a year or so ago, and it has been working, but not really now, and more on that in a minute. The computer was sent to me in its original box inside this bigger box, which was great. And this is how the original box looks. It was in rather good shape, and the seller had done a good job of packing it nicely. So this is how it came. It was yellowed and with an old sticker mark there. The power supply is very light, although it's chunky. This box didn't weigh much to lift up. And here's the mouse. I've retrobrighted it since in another video, but yeah, it's in rather good shape as well. Here are some other things that came with it. A TAC2 joystick. Actually, two TAC2 joysticks that I also use with my Commodore 64 and the VIC-20 as well. We have the RF modulator module here, and we also have the power brick, which really is a big brick. And wow, this RF modulator really tells you how yellow the computer is. I'm assuming these are supposed to match. Just look at that. I also got these instruction books, one for the computer itself, and one for the Amiga Basic. These are both in Swedish. In terms of video output, there is monochrome video on the back, but with the RF modulator we can get color output, but it's obviously not of the best quality. Instead I got this RGB cable that connects to the same 23-pin connector as the RF modulator and ends in a SCART connector. So as you see, the computer is terribly yellowed, as these things tend to be these days, but other than that, it seems to be in decent shape. Turning it to the side, we can see the floppy drive there, and that's where some of our problems lie. But on the back we have the ports. We have the two joysticks port there on the left. We have the audio ports left and right. Then there's the disk drive port, the serial port there, and then we have the parallel port, and there is the power jack. It's a proprietary power jack, and the computer doesn't have an on and off switch. Of course, the switch is on the power brick itself, which is rather annoying, but there you go. And then there is the monitor port, and the RF modulator here fits right into that monitor port, and the cable that I showed as well in that same port. And there is the composite out, but it's monochrome, as I mentioned. If we look on the other side, we have kind of uneven yellowing there, but that's the expansion port slot. And here under this trapdoor on the bottom, we have the memory expansion. And let's try to take this out and have a closer look. And this one actually has the extra RAM, bringing it up to 1 megabyte then in total, the computer, and has a clock battery there and a real-time clock as well, so it keeps the time. You can turn this on and off there with a little switch, and so this is rather handy. Right, let's have a look at what the issue is. So I'm turning it on here, and if we listen carefully, here's the Kickstart ROM here, 1.3 in this computer, and I have some Amiga Workbench floppies here. We can try the yellow one there and see if it boots it. So it's constantly seeking when you turn it on. So when you put a floppy disk in, it starts seeking. And after a long while, takes a while, then it's not working. What I had done previously is that this happened intermittently, and I would try to load a disk. Here is a Amiga disk with some games. It's one of the few original disks that I have. Most have just been, you know, pirated, copied games. But this is actually an original disk. The screen was slightly out of center here, but it didn't accept the disk. If I pressed on the floppy drive and tried a couple of times, then it would actually load the disk. So again, it says that it's not working. I'm clicking on the try again icon there, and yeah, and then finally it did load the disk. And here we have the menu, and it even loaded the game, so that was pretty good, but it was very intermittent. I couldn't really rely on this floppy drive at all, and this kind of led me to want to fix it, of course, to make it more reliable, but I didn't really know how. So I took the floppy drive apart, and here you can see the head moving and seeking, and I'm trying again and again to get it working, but it's not working. So something is out of alignment. So I tried to unscrew these screws that hold the head a little bit and try to change the position a bit, because I figured that was the problem. But of course I should have realized that doing this blind without any software to see where I'm going wrong is bound to fail. There are just too many ways that I could get the alignment on the head wrong. So this was kind of doomed from the outset. I really wanted it to work though. See, I had to put that piece of plastic under the floppy drive because the motor actually spins right under the drive, and so you can't have it up against anything, then it will sort of snag. Yeah, I kept hoping that I would be able to hit the sweet spot with the alignment, but I couldn't really. I took it apart, totally disassembled it, try to lubricate the right things here, but the screw that I need, one of the screws that I need to align the head, the grooves there are really damaged, so I'm going to need to get a new one of these to be able to make a new attempt later. But here are some goodies that will help me with my floppy drive woes that I recently got. So let's open this computer up and see if we could get them inside. Right, and then we have to remove this, remove the cover here, and the keyboard connector is a simple connector, and just lifts right off. It's kind of wedged in between there. And this reveals the expansion port there underneath. This shield is held by 4 screws, 2 there on the side and 2 in the front, and then it lifts out. You need to bend these metal things a bit, but I've already done that. So there is the culprit, the disk drive. There are 3 screws underneath and 1 screw on the side there inside the case. And then the disk drive comes out like this. There we have it. So this is what I'll be installing, the Gotek, and yeah, looks rather good. So let's see how it will fit. But the ribbon cable is too short. The original ribbon cable is too short, so I had to send for another ribbon cable. And here it is from Amiga Kit in the UK. So this is probably long enough, and there's also a long power cable in case one wants to route this from the outside. And this doesn't quite fit either, the old power cable. Might actually. So let's open this and have a look. There's the PCB. So I'm using the old power cable because it did reach, but I need to put the new ribbon cable. I'm trying to put the excess there on top so it connects nicely. And here we are. So with the Gotek inside, as you see, we can't actually access, we can't see the screen, and we can't really access the buttons either. So placing it inside like this is really not an option. Instead, what we can do is to place it on the outside by connecting it with the long cables and sort of routing them through the floppy port there on the side. And it's a temporary solution, of course, but at least we can see that it works and we can connect it to the computer. I'm saving these old cables because I need them. And I'm putting back the rotary switch now that it will be on the outside. I've heard that you can install a little beeper as well to hear the sound when it's supposed to seek, but I haven't done that. Maybe I'll do it in the future. Right, so here is the Gotek then on the outside, and here is the disk drive that I will need to fix in the future. And you just connect these cables to the Gotek to try it out. On the new cable, the red turned out to be 12 volt, which actually burnt 3 of my thumb drives. The Gotek is supposed to take 5 volts, but the connection is such on the new cable that the red, which was 12 volt from the motherboard, fitted into the 5 volt pin on the Gotek. So it burned out 3 of my thumb drives. Luckily, the Gotek itself didn't burn out, and I had a 4th thumb drive that I could actually use. So be careful when you connect the cables, and don't assume that the color coding from the motherboard is the same. And here we have the top, and I'm going to try to retrobrite this. I put some hydrogen peroxide cream and then spread it out with a painter's brush. Try to get an even layer as much as possible in all the places. Quite a thick layer if possible. And then after I've spread out the hydrogen peroxide cream, then I put some cling film on top of it. And when the cling film is on top of it, to prevent the hydrogen peroxide from evaporating, I put it on my balcony. And it's not actually in direct sunlight, but just outside. And it does get some UV light. This is a careful retrobriting process that actually takes several goes to see a result, but one really minimizes the risk of getting patches and bad results. So I did this about 3 or 4 times, and as you can see, the results aren't too bad actually. Here it is on the bench in one of the trials, and here is the keyboard taken apart. Right, so yeah, this was not too yellowed underneath, but on the side it was, and now it's more even, so I'm quite pleased with that. So now let's put this computer back together. Start off by this shield that was in the bottom. It wasn't really damaged, so that's great. And inside the shield was some plastic to keep it isolated from the components underneath. And then we have the motherboard itself that we actually didn't have to do anything on this time around. There it is inside. In the back we need to put these screws in to fasten the motherboard. That's how the motherboard is stuck to the case. And I have this little handy tool which actually does this for us. Otherwise this is very finicky with pliers, but this makes the job rather easy, although it's not magnetic. Here is then the Gotek inside. As you can see, the little rotary switch there actually fits nicely in the space for the button for the floppy drive, and it actually even twists. But of course, with the lid on top, it won't fit, and it doesn't fit into the hole. So as we saw before, it's really out of the question to keep it inside, unless you route the screen to the outside and the controls as well. Right, as you can see, I've now got the long cable the right way around with the yellow to the left, which feeds the right amount of voltage to the Gotek. Put the shield, route the cables outside, put the shield, and put the keyboard back in place, like so and so. And here is the upper part of the case, now looking much brighter. So let's route the cables through the floppy hatch there. And we'll have a pretty neat temporary solution, at least, to connect the Gotek, the floppy drive emulator, while we wait for me to try to fix the floppy drive and also arrange for the Gotek to be connected externally instead. But for that we need one of these switches that makes the external floppy port bootable. This is something that we'll come back to. Right, and let's connect the memory module like so, and put the hatch back on. And got the screws. Those are the screws for the floppy drive, of course, that is not installed. And yeah, there we go, looking rather nice. Right, I tried to retrobrite these with cream. I didn't have any liquid hydrogen peroxide, and this was not very successful. We ended up with a very cloudy water, and I can't coat these one by one with cream, and so these didn't actually retrobrite. So I'm going to have to get some liquid hydrogen peroxide and retrobrite them, because this is how it looks. You see they're still yellowed, and now they're clean at least, but it doesn't get better than this with the hydrogen peroxide cream in the water. And here I am putting the not so retrobrited keys back on. First I have to place all these springs, and then I have to start putting the keycaps back. Of course I need to do this again when I retrobrite the keys in the future. I'm really happy how this turned out. And now I can connect the Gotek externally like this, with the floppy drive cable and the power cable there the right way around this time. It's the red that is the 5 volts in this configuration. And there we have it. Really nice. This is something that I'll be able to use now. And here we have Master Blaster loaded in my one thumb drive that didn't burn out. There we can see it on the screen, and the Gotek is blinking away. And it's loading. Amiga DOS there, release 1.3. Let's see if this is working. Will it load my favorite? Yes, it did. So that is going to have to be it for this video. I'm really happy that I'm able to use this classic machine now, that I have a Gotek that I can use with it. And playing Master Blaster really took me back to some great times. The Amiga is also looking much fresher now with the Retrobrite, and I'm very pleased that I'm able to retrobrite on the balcony in the shade. But we'll be coming back to this computer. The keycaps still need to be properly retrobrited, and since I want an as original setup as possible, that means actually fixing the original disk drive. As mentioned, I also want to install a switch to be able to boot from the Gotek connected externally. All these things will be done in a future video. Please consider subscribing if you haven't done so already, so you won't miss that when it comes out. And if you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate if you give it a thumbs up. Take care, and thank you for watching.